Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back, gang, to the rebranded podcast, where the Tech Blog Writer podcast has now evolved into the Tech Talks Daily podcast. And you know how I've always tell you to put the phone down and don't be afraid to daydream, because that's where the magic happens. Well, I took my own advice over the weekend, which proved to be quite dangerous, because I decided to rebrand the podcast after thinking about just how much this podcast has grown in 4 years, and how our community has grown, and how the podcast is continuously evolving too. And after nearly 1,000 interviews with some amazing guests such as Gary Vaynerchuk, Shatner, Wendy Williams, as well as tech giants like Microsoft, Sony, Adobe, Lenovo and IBM, and even sports teams like Madrid and Manchester United, it's clear that we've created a bit of a monster here. And while I was reflecting on this, it occurred to me that the phrase tech blog writer is not going to mean too much to people outside of our community. And on the podcast, I always talk about how every business must leverage technology and continuously evolve. So I figured maybe I need to do that myself too. But before doing it, I just wanted to grab you all for a quick chat, a regrouping, and see just how far we've come in the last 4 years together. Because back in 2015, I won the LinkedIn Top Voice Award for the number 2 tech writer on LinkedIn. So I started a podcast to try and bring a voice to my written articles and give others a platform to share their stories, their experiences too. And I was motivated by something incredibly simple, and that was if I share my experiences, my businesses, and leaders share theirs too, maybe we could all learn a thing or two from each other along the way. And I must admit, it took me 40 episodes, I think it was, to find the format that we all enjoy today. Well, I hope you all enjoy. But over the years, I realised that I cannot earn a living through just being the tech blog writer guy. You know, writing for online publications, businesses, and ghostwriting for tech leaders. I also needed my fingers in a few more pies. And as for the podcast, we began with 1 to 2 episodes a week, and then 5, and then 7. And despite going daily, I'm still booked up with 7 to 10 guests per week up until mid-October. And in the last few years, we have spoken to so many big names, which I mentioned, and a few that I forgot there was John Scully from Apple, of course, and Guy Kawasaki, and Autosport, and Formula One, but also so many inspirational startup stories. So that startup founders are on various stages of their own startup journey can actually listen and learn from others that have already been on that path and know how to make themselves attractive for further funding and level up or take it to the next level. And one of the things that I've learned over the last few years is, although all the guests on this podcast are incredibly diverse from a wide range of multiple industries, every single one of them shares the same story of how they use technology to transform their business or indeed life. And I think it's taken me until 950 episodes to admit that the name Tech Blog Writer only tells a very small part of what this show is about. So I decided to go with Tech Talks Daily, and let me just talk you through the reasons behind that. One is the show is not about me or the Tech Blog Writer persona. It's about the guests, and it's about them sharing their real stories. Not only that, of course, it's about the audience being invited to come on this show if they want to, or even just email me and we can read their insights out. So we get all those diverse opinions into one big pot, share them, and all learn from each other. And in an age full of echo chambers, I think that can only be a great thing. And two, of course, we all share these tech-related stories every single day. And if you want to take a look inside my head, which I don't advise you to, it's a dark, dark place. But if you do, that's how my mind works. And that's how I arrived at Tech Talks Daily. So here we are now with a new cover art and title. But as for the show itself, not too much is going to change. All I want to do is attract bigger names to the podcast and also share even more stories. But at the heart of all that, you, the listeners, your insights, your feedback, they remain the beating heart of this podcast. So next week, I'm going to be heading out to the IRFA event in Berlin. And last year, the event completely sold out, selling an incredible 161,200 square metres of show floor space to 1,800 exhibitors, confirming the role of that conference as the leading showcase for global technology. And this year, the event is not only going to host more innovation and product launches than any previous event, it also presents more digital lifestyle products in one place than any other show worldwide. But for my US listeners listening, think of it as CES but in Europe. So as I hit the show floor next week, I'm going to try and attract some big names for the show. And I felt that approaching them and saying, do you want to come on the Tech Talks Daily podcast is going to sound a little bit better than do you want to come on the Tech Blog Writer podcast? Because straight away, like, Tech Blog Writer, what does that mean? Hopefully I'm making the right choice, and I hope that each and every one of you stays with me and remains on this journey with me and continues on this journey with me that we started together, and hey, we're going to continue together. And of course, if any of my friends out there are attending IRFA in Berlin, let me know. I'd love to grab a quick drink and chat with you, and we can discuss anything that comes up there. So, my hope is that we're going to settle into our new name by the time we hit that 1,000 episode mark. And I'm also planning a little giveaway. And I've been busy Googling merch ideas for giveaways, and everything seems to be about USB drives and power banks. But it seems to me that every single conference or event you go to, that's the standard swag, isn't it? We've all got a drawer of USB drives and power banks. So I'm thinking about webcam covers and wireless chargers. What do you think? Would that be a nice reward for listening to this podcast for 4 years? It isn't much, but I figure it's the least I could do. So when I say you are the heart of the show, I mean it. And I'd love to hear from you all and give me a little guidance, because like I say, we are all in this together. So we've had some incredibly big names on the first 1,000 episodes, and the pressure's going to be on now to get a few more as we move forward together. But with you all by my side, I think we can continue to surprise a few people along the way, don't you? So like I said, not too much is going to change, including my favourite catchphrase. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.